want to go to university. Mark almost choked on his food when his friend uttered the casual statement. You what? He finally managed to croak, still fighting to breathe, but Josh remained optimistically relaxed. I want to meet more people, feel more emotions. Are you sure? Mark used his words and tone with care. He didn't want to discourage the angel. I mean, well, you just got beaten in a gutter. I am sure. The man only stared for a moment before he found the right words. What kind of masochist would search out the very thing that hurt him before? Josh shrugged, not in the slightest offended. Mark suppressed a sigh. I won't tell you what to do, but I hope you know that you can't tell anyone anything. Don't worry, I have it all planned out, Josh answered with childish enthusiasm. The answer only caused Mark to worry. The world wasn't a good place and people were no Samaritans. Things turned out to be rather difficult when they wanted to register Josh as a student. I can't find a Josh McBride in the system. You haven't sent an application, nor do I find any earlier education, the woman of the faculty said in a plain tone. But can't you see? Josh spoke in his most angelic voice. It's right there. The moment he showed her with his finger on the screen, all the needed documents as well as the approved studentship appeared. The secretary had to look twice to believe it. Machines. She only halfway scoffed and halfway laughed. Silly things never do what they are supposed to. Mark dragged Josh closer the moment they had left the building. What was that? Some kind of angel magic you worked on the woman's computer. He had tried to conceal how upset he was by the danger of his friend being found out about. It had been in vain, however, and Josh only looked at him in silent confusion. I'm sure no one will notice, his friend uttered, somewhat intimidated. I'm sorry, it's just not something I experience every day. Have faith, Mark. It will all work out. You need to trust. That's a very dangerous thing, you know. Josh only looked at the man with a warm expression. It was as if a light shone in the angel's eyes that let every pain melt into peace. It made Mark feel so wonderfully at ease. He even laughed softly when the heavy atmosphere had lifted. But seriously, McBride, do you intend to join the IRA? He was a great man, his friend uttered proudly. Mark had to give him that. The silence in his own apartment baffled Mark. His usually busy friend was gone to attend the lectures, leaving the man alone. Falling back into his old ways at once, he took a can of tuna. He managed to cook himself a cup of tea, though. Sitting alone in the quiet, he ate. Mark wondered what his friend was doing at the time. Was he in trouble? Although an angel should be more than capable to handle himself. Mark had been to university himself. He had gotten his degree without much effort. Instead of a great career, however, he had somehow ended up amongst people of the working class. He didn't necessarily regret his choice. Enough graduates were quite the arrogance in person. On the other hand, there were days he wished himself to be alone in a laboratorium instead of in front of an angry customer who must have been hit on the head once too often. Mark chuckled to himself at the mean statement. He stared at nothing particular for a minute. His new friend had become far too big a part of his surroundings. One day Josh would leave. The seraphim didn't belong on Earth after all. Then what? Mark would sink into bottomless despair if he didn't get a handle on himself. No need to ponder it now anyway, he muttered towards the silence. The man still felt down despite the easygoing statement. Yet as the days went by, he got used to the absence of his friend now and then. A new challenge came when Josh announced that he'd found a side job to pay for his own stuff. Mark was happy for his friend's successes. Inside, however, he felt a subtle sting as doubt whispered to him about the possibility of his friend leaving him out of one reason or another. Mark would never chain the angel. Josh had a right to stay or go. Yet the fear stayed. And as Josh's social circle grew larger, the man drew back into his own safe spaces. They were too many people, too much unknown ground. It made Mark uncomfortable. He was careful to not let his friend notice it, for especially when he saw the angel with his fellow students and how they were close and open around each other, he felt his heart hurt. It hurt to see Josh with others. Not because he was jealous or because he didn't wish his friend to be free and happy, but because he was afraid. He was broken. Josh might leave this broken mortal for another, healthier one. Perhaps with enough experience, Josh might choose to abandon his lonely friend who lived so much in his own mind, instead of the world outside. There wasn't much Mark could give those around him after all. What worth, what right did he have to be friends with such a benevolent person like Josh? Feeling his growing misery, Mark drew back even more. Things would get better if he just isolated himself long enough. Things always got better if he only buried the causes deep enough. Being on his way home, Mark ran the last few feet to the door of his apartment. He had been drenched in a cold November rain. The relief of the cozy warmth inside let him stand in the corridor for a moment with dripping hair. The man was still drying himself when he heard the metallic clatter of empty cans that caused him to follow the direction of the sound. Like struck by lightning, Mark stopped dead in the kitchen's entrance. Josh was sitting at the kitchen table like always. In front of him was his PC and a few papers, and what shocked Mark, dozens of empty RedBull cans lay strewn on the table and floor. The angel himself was seemingly spaced out. With his wings unfolded and all of the eyes on his body opened, his mind was probably shifting between several dimensions. When his friend finally noticed the man, all eyes locked on Mark. The intensity gave rise to a very uncomfortable feeling. Be not afraid, Josh uttered with a voice more trembling than booming. Mark wasn't sure if the angel was talking to him or rather to himself. Dear God, Josh, how many did you fucking drink? He cast a glance towards the open cupboard door, which revealed an empty space. Did you drink my whole stash of energy drinks? Josh said nothing for a moment. Then the words just bubbled out of his mouth. They said it would help, because I have an essay that needs to be ready by tomorrow, but nothing happened. I still got to write it. Be not afraid. Be not afraid. All right. Mark sighed and went over to his friend. He checked the empty cans, finding one which was still half full, and promptly emptied it. If he was supposed to be of any help, then he needed that bit of energy. No, I need it, his friend intervened. You need to calm down, mate. I know this is freaking you out right now, but it will pass. Mark looked at the many empty cans and remembered the sheer amount of caffeine his friend must have absorbed. I only can't tell you how soon. Taking the other chair, he sat down next to his friend. It's going to be fine. The man encouraged the angel. Just give me the stuff that needs to be part of the essay and I'll look into it. Josh handed him the notes, labeled cognitive behaviors. Psychology, eh? Mark muttered. Can't be worse than science. A yawn escaped him as he started to make sense of the scribbled words. Here we go. The biting wind left a sensation of being cut on Mark's skin. Despite the frosty weather, he had decided to take a walk in the dark. He needed the solitude. He hoped his heavy mood might lift before Josh might pick up on it. The angel was so happy with his studies, Mark didn't want to take that from him. The mortal lifestyle had also pushed aside thoughts of returning to heaven, and the man would be lying by saying that he didn't like that. Perhaps things would stay like this forever. The happy illusion was starting to fall apart when Mark noticed something strange falling from the sky. It was a ball of fire, just like Josh had been that one night. Realizing the quickness with which it was drawing closer to the ground, the man took refuge in a nearby alley. In contrast to Josh's landing, however, this angel did not crash into the ground. It stopped right before impact, and the decrease in speed let the fire dissipate. Mark's heart skipped a beat as his eyes had adjusted. In the middle of the street stood a man almost 9 feet tall, with a golden Egyptian tunic covering most of the bronze skin. Hands and feet were naked, and in the hand's case ended in claws similar to a bird's. The head was the one of a hawk with lapis lazuli blue feathers, adorned by a crown and many necklaces. Mark knew enough about other mythologies to recognize the deity at once. Ra emitted a fiery glow like the sun, which slowly faded when he folded his flaming wings. Wrapped around the god's neck like a darkening taint was a huge black serpent. The man held his breath when the lights of a car that swiftly came closer appeared ahead. When the sickening noise of metal and bone being crushed sounded, Mark turned away in the shadows. The next time he dared to look again, Ra still stood like an oak tree. The car, on the other hand, had been turned into a wreck from the front window to the tip of the engine hood. The owner stumbled out of his vehicle to face the armor-pressed Ra. The serpent uttered a fierce hiss as it examined the human in front of them, but Ra calmed it by stroking its head. Calmly, Apophis. This one is just a mortal. The driver didn't utter a word, only stared at the entity in front of him. What? My car! Silent, mortal! Ra boomed in a ruling manner. Where am I? Edinburgh, Scotland, the man stammered. Scotland, the god scoffed. That's where he went to hide. As if to repay the debt, Ra touched the car, whereupon the metal took on its former form and the cracks in the glass disappeared. Mark felt his legs starting to tremble. Ra must have been the entity that had hurt Josh, and now he was coming to finish whatever he had tried to do. His friend wasn't safe on Earth. He had to go back home. We are too close. I can't make out his exact position. Apophis spoke in a raspy female voice. We will find him, Ra answered with godly confidence. Mark waited for the entity to walk away before hurrying home himself. Yet despite the danger, he couldn't bring himself to tell his friend about the encounter. The experience had left him dazed as reality was slowly falling apart. Something terrible would happen if he kept quiet, but something equally devastating would happen if he would tell him. Josh might just leave, or he might be equally terrified. Mark might just make things worse. He might cause his friend a lot of distress, so he just kept his mouth shut and barricaded himself in his room, hoping to escape reality.